think we're all here. Melissa, are we getting good to go?
We need one moment. We have a battery issue on the microphone.
Okay.
If anyone hears a loud crash, it's my iPad went across the room and hit the wall.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to respond to that, Ron, other than I know your pain.
Well, maybe that iPad has a self.
IT problems.
Maybe it has what?
Yeah, I said that's the first attempt at fixing IT problems.
Yeah, where's Corey when you really need him?
Good morning, everybody. This is Melissa. Can you hear me okay? Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties this morning.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Wonderful. President Balin, we are ready to go when you are.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. I'd like to call the regular board meeting of Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022 at 9 a.m. to order. Melissa, will you please call the roll?
Okay, Director Balin?
Here.
Director Boatwright?
Here,
Director Kearns?
Here.
Director Murphy?
Here.
Director Ringen?
Here.
Okay, all 5 directors are present.
Okay, thank you. And we'll begin by, I'll be saying the pledge here, and if we all put ourselves on mute, then we can say the pledge at home. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Allegiance to the flag of the United States. Okay, well, we would like to welcome the members of the public at this time to our public forum, and that those that have taken the time to attend this meeting and provide comments on matters related to district business. Any member of the public may address the board relating to any matter within the board's jurisdiction. This need not be related to any item on the agenda. However, the board cannot act on an item unless it was noticed on the agenda. Persons speaking during the public comment will be limited to 5 minutes, or depending on the number of persons wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. So Cindy or Melissa, at this time, is there any member of the public that would like to address the board?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then we will close the public comment and go to the consent calendar. Melissa, will you please read our item?
Okay, item number 1, minutes of the regular board meeting of February 8th, 2022.
Thank you. Is there any director that would wish to pull this item? Okay, seeing none, any member of the public that would like to comment on this item?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent item, the minutes?
Madam President, I'd make a motion that we accept the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, then that's a 5-0, Melissa. Do you actually need us to call out our vote?
Yes, I can just do a roll call vote.
Okay.
Okay, Director Balin,
Aye.
Director Boatwright,
Aye.
Director Kearns,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Ringen.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. All right, on to regular business. And Melissa, will you please read the item, the first item?
Okay, item number 2, consider executing a construction contract with Mazingo Construction, Inc. for the Curtis Creek Elementary School Water System Consolidation Project.
Well, good morning, Board of Directors and members of the public. Well, I'm going to turn this over to Jennifer. She's been the most heavily involved in this project. And I'll just start by saying it's been a great collaboration with the school, with the county, with Benitez, the owner of many of the properties there in Standard. So it's kind of a win-win-win type of project here. It is grant funded. And I'll just let Jennifer go through the details with you. And I think she's probably going to share screen as well. But it did go to committee, and we can also go over some of those questions that came out of committee.
Yes, good morning. Okay, so yeah, we did bring this to the water committee, and I'm just going to go over some of the things that were mentioned there so that the 3 board members who were not in attendance of that meeting can have a few more details. So Curtis Creek Elementary School owns and operates a public water system, and it's under the jurisdiction of the State Water Resources Control Board, Division of Drinking Water, and serves a population of approximately 600 students and staff. And they were fed off of one well that was built around 1958. The well is not equipped with backup generator for emergency power, and there's no on-site storage for emergency fire protection. The school's water system has been inadequate for the past several years. System deficiencies include storage capacity, source capacity, and water quality. Back in 2011, the school experienced brown water and were not able to flush their toilets. They weren't able to keep up with the demands of their school. So when their well was being used to irrigate their upper fields, they lost so much pressure that they couldn't flush their toilets. So they had to kind of figure out how to when to irrigate their fields so that wasn't an issue anymore. As recently as January 2017, I remember this one, there was an electrical fire there at the school in one of the classrooms. And there were, the firefighters came and they had to use their water tenders, their water trucks to put out the fire, because although the school has fire hydrants on their campus already, they don't have the pressure or the storage to fight the fire. So if you go drive through their school, you'll notice that they're all painted black. So none of them are in operation, and they have a dedicated fire system, but they can't use it. That fire did extensive damage to many classrooms there. In 2021, September 2021, the school, this was just last year, experienced muddy water. They were kind of just at their limit this time, saying, hey, we have to get bottled water when these things happen. They're constantly buying bottled water and then going back to their well, and then buying bottled water and going back to the well. And every time that happens, every time their system's depressurized, or they get a mainline break, or the power goes out from a PSPS event, or a tree goes through a wire, or snow, or the school's out for more than just the PSPS event. So they go the multiple days of those events, and then they have to wait another day to get a positive or a negative BACT result. So they have to test the water and make sure the water is acceptable to drink. And I know last year the school did have to make up a couple days because they missed too many days of school, some of which was due to events like those. And so although the kids graduated on a Wednesday, they had to show back up on Thursday and on Friday to go back to school and make up those days. So the school decided this year, after this last year in September of 2021, that they were done going back and forth between bottled water and closing campus and not doing all of that. So they had water back in September. They could flush their toilets, but their water was brown and muddy, so you can't drink that. So they decided September to just purchase water, and they've been purchasing water every month from Mountain Oasis, those like 5-gallon bottles. They've got the jugs in every classroom and throughout the school. And I'm sure that's not, super cheap for them to do that, but at least it's keeping their school open. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the county. We've been working with Tuolumne County now on this project for about a little over a year. The county has scheduled an overlay project of Olive Standard Road, and that's happening this year. They have the funds in hand, so that will be happening this year. And so they are waiting on TUD to come in and do our water main. They issued us an encroachment permit very quickly so that we can get this out to bid and get our project done in advance of theirs. And why this is really important, more important now more than ever, is last year the county adopted their dig once policy. And so after they paved this road, there's a moratorium. There's no digging on this road for 5 years. So if we don't do this project now, we won't be able to attempt the project for another 5 years. And the school desperately needs water now. One thing I also want to mention is that the school started this whole process back in 2017. And they reached out to the engineering firm. They hired the engineering firm to design this project. And they initially tried to get the funding for the project. And at the very end, when funding became available, we thought, we could administer this grant, and we've got the connections with, bidding and construction and inspection, and all of that is ultimately going to be our water system in the end as well. So late last year, we ended up taking over the project in a sense and working with the school to do so. And so just so you know a little bit about the grant too, the grant covers everything. It covers my time doing admin, project bidding, project management, any inspection time that I do spend out there, although we did end up hiring an inspection firm for this. That inspection time is also covered by the grant, and all of the construction is covered by the grant, and there's a significant amount of contingencies in case something doesn't go quite right, which I'm not expecting, but it's always nice having those to fall back on if we need them. The grant is the California State Water Resources Control Board grant, and it's in the amount of approximately $2.3 million. So like I said, it's construction contingencies, project design, inspection, testing, and construction management and admin. All TUD staff time is reimbursable. So at the very end of the project, we're going to have our distribution guys probably out there helping get the main cleaned and back teed and ready to go. So their time's covered. The school district will also be paying approximately $200,000 in capacity fees, but the money's actually coming out of the grant. So when the school applied for the grant, they included the capacity fees. The state recognizes this project as a consolidation project because Curtis Creek Elementary School is its own public water system, that there is an incentive to consolidate public water systems. And so by doing this project and completing this project, TUD will also receive, in addition to the $2.3 million of grant, the TUD will also receive about $1.8 million to use on a future project. So that's a lot of grant money. I'll go into the previously related action, and I apologize because I see that I made a typo on the very first date that is shown on there. It should say August 5th of 2010. The district signed an agreement with Anthony Benitez. He is the owner of the 2 properties which make up the town of Standard. So all of those buildings in Standard are located on 2 properties, and Mr. Benitez owns those. And back in 2010, he signed an agreement that said, if we ever bring a water main down the road, that he will have to get individual meters for all of his buildings, and he will need to connect at the time that we bring the water main down. So we've been in connection with him, and right now he's currently, all of those buildings are fed off of a 2-inch water service located approximately 2,700 feet away at our SBI tank. So he will be going from 1 service to 9 services as part of this project. His capacity fees are paid for some of those buildings, one of which he will be needing to pay capacity fees on because it's not currently being served by TUD. So that agreement was signed back in 2010. June 12th of 2018, the board adopted a resolution to submit funding, a funding application for the project. In May of 2019, CEQA was conducted and adopted by this board. August of 2021, we executed a water service agreement with Curtis Creek Elementary School, saying that we would serve the school. In September of 2021, we executed the funding agreement with the State Water Resources Control Board. And on December 2021, the district submitted the first claim for reimbursement and has already received back approximately $59,600 from the state to reimburse costs with planning and design. So that covered a lot of the money associated with the engineering firm. So this project was brought before the Water Committee on February 16th, and the Water Committee recommended to bring this project to the Board of Directors for review and approval. And one other thing that I wanted to note is that the town of Standard, they are currently being served off of or not served, their fire flow is being provided from a pond that SBI runs, and SBI and the town of Standard, they don't communicate as much as maybe they probably should. So when SBI drains the ponds, the fire flow goes with it. And so all their fire hydrants there are raw water hydrants. And so this project will be picking up 3 of the hydrants along the frontage of that property, and then leaving additional raw water fire hydrants toward the back of the property, so that we can have the fire hydrants for operational purposes like flushing our line and providing another source of fire flow to the area. So let me get into the project a little bit. I'm going to share my screen. So approximately 5,500 linear feet of new water main. I'm assuming you guys could see my screen. Is that correct?
Yes, you're sharing it in PDF, but yeah, we can see it.
Right. Okay, perfect. So we're connecting the water main over by Tractor Supply, and it's going to be running all the way down through the town of Standard, 5,500 feet of new 12-inch water main, and we'll be connecting at the school, and that's the stopping point for there. The 2-inch service that I was talking about for Mr. Benitez is right where my cursor is. It's back here, and these 2 ponds are the 2 ponds that serve the fire flow for the whole town of Standard. And then just to mention, the fire flow from that will be used at the school comes from these 3 tanks. They're kind of hard to see, but they're right where my cursor is. These are the Mono Village tanks, and there's 3 of them there. there is enough capacity, or there's not, sorry, I don't want to say this incorrectly. These 3 tanks provide the pressure for the fire flow, but they do not provide the capacity. And so in a fire event, there's another tank back over in this area, kind of near Phoenix Lake area. It's called the Summit tank. That tank can provide the pressure, but does not have the fire flow, doesn't have the capacity. So if there was a fire event, then primarily, at first, at least these tanks will cover the fire flow. And then PRV that's located right around, I don't know where my cursor is, like right here, will open and we'll get the pressure, more pressure and capacity from our Summit tank as well.
If I can, I'll just try to say the fire flow for the school is 1,500 gallons a minute for 2 hours at a minimum system pressure of 20 PSI. So what Jennifer was saying is that we need to utilize 2 tanks to get a combination. Those 2 tanks together will provide the capacity, which is 180,000 gallons. That's 1,500 gallons a minute for 2 hours. Unfortunately, those Mono Village tanks are just too low to provide enough pressure. They have enough storage capacity, but not enough pressure. So we're reliant on another tank for that additional pressure. And that is what drove the 12-inch water main size. If we had had adequate storage capacity at a proper elevation to deliver at least 20 PSI of pressure in the system, then we could have reduced the water main size. But unfortunately, that's just not the way our system is currently set up. And so that's what drove the 12-inch water main size.
Yep. Thank you, Eric.
Can you repeat those calculations real quick for me?
Sure.
The fire flow?
Yeah, the fire flow is 1,500 gallons a minute for 2 hours. So that's 180,000 gallons that you need to have in tank storage. Plus you need to have additional storage capacity to deal with the day-to-day demands. So you're always supposed to have 180,000 gallons in standby. Unfortunately, you need to maintain 20 PSI. And when you try to shove 1,500 gallons a minute through a 10-inch diameter water main from the Mono Village tanks, you lose your pressure. So we needed to upsize the pipeline to 12 inches. We did a fair amount of hydraulic modeling to determine pipeline size on this project that goes back several years from now. But we had to get creative and utilize 2 tanks in order to achieve the fire flow requirements from the California Fire Code, basically.
And just one more thing on that, just so I totally understand. With a smaller pipe, do you have too high of a pressure with that?
Too low of a pressure.
Low of a pressure. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay, so the project was recently put out to bid. Bids were circulated on December 10th of 2021. And on January 2022, we received 5 bids for the project, as high as about 2.2 million. And the low bid was $1,368,968. And that was from Mazingo Construction. And they're based out of Oakdale. We've used them on many projects in the past. And in addition to you might be asking, well, if there was only approximately $1.4 million, why are you asking us to approve something that's somewhat higher than that? And that is to cover the additional items that we had in the bid, which included Mr. Benitez's water services and a water service for us. And so Mr. Benitez, he has already put down a deposit to us. We already have check in hand that covers his portion of the water services. He's paying for his own water service lateral, meter box, backflow, and connection into his buildings. He'll probably be spending approximately $100,000 or so to get fully connected to our water system. So like I said, we already have that money in hand. So we are going to pay Mazingo with the money that he has already paid us. I also just want you to know that the low bid was not based on any of the additive alternatives. So the low bid was based on just Curtis Creek's project only, without any consideration to our extra water service or Mr. Benitez's water services either. So that way the grant got the lowest, the grant sees the lowest bid for the project itself, regardless of the additive alternatives. There's a few water stubs that were going to go out during this project as well. And that's also because of the county's dig once policy and moratorium on the road for the next 5 years. It makes sense to do those now. So there's a couple water services stubbed out included in the project as well. And I think that sums it sums it up. I see that Dawn Morey, she's the superintendent of Curtis Creek Elementary School, is on. Ooh, where'd she go? Oh, there she is. Sorry, you moved on my screen.
Sorry, I thought I should turn on my camera.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had anything that you'd like to add. I don't want to put you on the spot, so it's okay if you don't. But
Well, sorry I came a few minutes late and I heard you talking about our water and how we're using the drinking water. So thank you for sharing that. And I don't know if I missed, maybe if you were able to talk at all about just being on the well, and when we have power outages and things that we aren't able to keep school open. And even when the power comes back on, being on the well, we aren't able, if it's been out for 24 hours, we aren't able to operate school until it's checked. And so historically over the years, we've missed school, even when the lights are on. In addition to just having like some of those drinking water concerns. So we're so excited that this project is where it's at, and before you guys, and all of your help and working with Jennifer has been great as I'm learning all about water and how it operates. So thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah, and that's all I had, unless Eric, you had anything else. And then otherwise I'll take questions, if any. Looks like David Boatwright, you have your hand up.
Let's see if I can get this all in order. Jennifer, you talked about the low bid for Mazingo, so that the grant seemed the lowest bid. Now, the 3 hydrants along Standard Road, was that included in the low bid?
Yes, that is included in the bid because we were planning on taking those hydrants over operationally anyway. It helps us clean our main.
Okay, that was my question as to their plumbing appliances that will be used in the maintenance of the line, so they should have been in. Thank you. And one other question. Has a school been given the heads up that changing from the well water to the TUD water is going to be of a different consistency, that it's going to affect their pipelines as far as the corrosion control, or maybe even seeing red or rusty water for a period of time?
Not formally. Informally, I had a conversation with, I can't remember if it was with you, Dawn, or if it was with Kristen, but I did let her know of a past project of ours that we did switch over a bunch of water services from well water to treated water, and people were noticing that this was down in the Court Stent area. I don't know if you remember when all the wells were failing out there, but when we switched over to TUD water, their pipelines out there were just so encased in just stuff. I mean, just from their wells. I don't know if it was just manganese or what, but when it was interacting with the chlorine from our water, that would start dissolving and breaking up. And so they were having issues with leaks and things several months after our project came through. So to answer your question, not formally, I haven't said anything formally, but just in conversation.
Okay, that, yeah, you know, in relationship, or to clarify that, it has more to do with the softness of our water versus the chlorine disinfectant that's used. All right, thank you.
Lisa, looks like you have a question.
Yeah, I actually have a handful of questions, and
Okay.
they're follow-ups from, because we went over pretty much this presentation at a meeting, I don't know, 6 months ago. You know, and we're all just to Dawn, to put you at ease, we're all understand the need and the necessity of this. So this is just big picture thinking. So one of the questions that I had asked of Eric Johnson at the time was about the dig once, and there had been some things that had been brought up about the septic system out at Curtis Creek, and that at some point in time that probably needed to get also, you know, end up on the sewer system because of the location of the creek near the school and all that. So I'm assuming that was brought up, talked about, but it's not getting moved forward on. And I just am curious why not combine those projects, and then the understanding of nothing can happen for 5 years after this project is done. So that's the first one, but then come back to me.
Yeah, Eric did task me with reaching out to the school and asking them that very question. And I did, I want to say it was with a lady named Kristen Barajas with the school. And I gave her some alternatives, whether that be pumping from where their septic is now up to our sewer lift station up in Standard, which would be within the limits of their paving project, and kind of laid out some approximate costs there. And right now from what she had told me, that their septic system right now is in very good working order, and they're not going to continue seeking, or they're not going to seek to do that kind of a project right now. In the future, they could also gravity southward back down toward Tuolumne Road. And so that is also a possibility, to be able to stay out of the road if they got proper easements to connect in later. And that would also avoid the paving. The paving project's going from Mono Way all the way down to Kamaj. And so if they had the proper easements, they could go south and avoid all of that.
Okay.
But yes, at this time, they were not looking to move forward with.
Okay. And another one of my questions was why the 12-inch pipe. You guys already covered that. Another one was about the fire water. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly, because what's written in the packet is that Benitez is keeping three. They will continue to run their raw water from those ponds for fire water. But what I heard in your presentation, Jennifer, is that there's an unreliability in there. So I'm hoping we're pushing for that to be, their communication to be better, and those hydrants to be more reliable, in addition to putting our own in. But so did I hear also that we will have 3 drinking water hydrants, treated water hydrants in the town of Standard? And then are we doing more along that road and at Curtis Creek, or how's that working?
So yeah, so we're doing more along the road. One new one in the town of Standard, just the very north point of where I would consider the town to start. That one's going to be new. 3 within Standard, and then when you get to the school already has fire hydrants. So all we have to do is connect it. We're going to tee off of the main line, connect into their fire system there with a 6-inch service and DCA there. And so no, there's no new hydrants at the school itself, because they already have fire hydrants.
But we'll be providing water to 3 hydrants on the Curtis Creek campus?
I believe they have more than that. I'm not exactly sure the number.
Okay, but so total in this project, we'll have maybe up to a dozen hydrants off.
Yeah, I would say so.
Throughout the system. the one piece that I also didn't understand was stubs, and I'm assuming that that's for future metering, but is that for future metering of projects we have planned, or is that just we picked convenient locations or something? How did
No, so these stubs would not be for a TUD project. It would be for, Mr. Benitez wanted a stub, and Sierra Pacific Industries wanted a stub. So we said, while we're doing this project, they approached us. Well, I guess we technically approached Mr. Benitez, but SBI approached us and said, hey, can we get in on this before the county's paving? And so that was also another additional adder on the bid that was not included in the base bid.
And for just to make sure I understand what a stub is. So my understanding of what a stub is that's where in the future, someone could pay for a hookup to hook up to that part of our system, and we have the built-in whatever needs to be built in to allow that to happen. So we have our part done ahead of time, and then they would build out to that and connect to it.
Correct. So we'll get it out of the roadway. So when they are ready to connect, they don't have to impact the road.
Okay, very good. I just want to make sure I understood that. The other piece I'm curious about is, so if this is being called a consolidation, does that mean that the well that's at Curtis Creek becomes part of the TUD infrastructure, or does it remain? And the reason I'm asking this is when we're looking forward to longer, hotter, drier summers and stuff like that, I'm just curious if this adds to the inventory that TUD has of possibilities of water down the road, or does that remain? Whose well is it after the consolidation?
Yeah, so after the consolidation, it will still be the school's well. They will be using it to irrigate their fields.
Okay.
So it's not for drinking anymore. We're going to sever the line to where it's not connected to their existing water that is plumbed into all of the buildings, but they are still going to use it for their fields.
And would there be any additional fire flow provided by that well?
No.
Okay. Could there be if it was found to be a need for that?
I believe their well is having issues. It's having trouble recharging, and short answer, probably not.
Just big picture, understanding it. This is the time to ask the questions. All right, cool. I think that's it for me. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. All right, Ron.
Yeah, mute myself here. Okay. I've been watching this project right from the very beginning, as soon as the board was made aware of it. And I realized that this is an urgent and important project for the health and safety of the grade school children, their teachers, and school staff. But I do have some questions that I would like to throw out there. I guess I was a little concerned of the variance, which you don't need to get into, of $1 million or more between the bid results. But having been in construction for so many years and seeing large differences in bids, that usually gets my attention. So we've gone over this 12-inch main, and I understand why and why it has to be and so on. I guess it leads me into the upper tank. It's going to be in order to try and augment, let's put it that way, augment the flow and pressure. That seems like it's a real important aspect of this project. Without it, it's not going to do what it needs to do, correct?
Are you referring to the Summit tank that's providing pressure during fire flow? Is that what you're referring to?
Right.
So yeah, the school will get the majority of their storage capacity from the Mono Village tanks, and then that, if needed, if the system pressure falls below 20 psi, then that PRV will open and we will get the additional flow and pressure from the Summit tank.
Okay, so that brings me to my next couple of questions. And knowing the engineering department, you guys went over this really with a fine tooth comb, but the Mono Village tanks, I'm assuming, are nowhere near capacity or delivering water. So there's plenty of water for this big project, and we, for the most part, correct?
Correct. I'm pulling it up right now. Mono Village tanks, there's three tanks. We call it tank A, B, and C, and they have about 550,000 gallons of water there that we can use. I mean, probably when you get toward the bottom, you start losing some of that. But you've got more than enough, because if you remember, we only need to store 180,000 gallons for fire flow. And so we have 550 there.
Okay, and but that water is supplied from what, Sonora water treatment plant?
Correct.
So it's being pumped uphill.
Correct.
All right. Now I want to go to the Summit tank. If that and that 6-inch line are an integral important part of this project, how old is that tank? What condition is that tank in, and that 6-inch line? And is the 6-inch line already underneath Mono Way so we can get to it? If not, and is all of that hookup and so on, and the PRV, is that all in the Mazingo estimate or bid?
No, that was actually, that all of that work has already been completed. I can't remember when, but it was during my time with the district. I want to say maybe 2016, 17 or so. We already have the line. It's a 10-inch line that runs down from that tank. We've got a 10-inch line crossing under Mono Way. We did a bore and jack job there not too long ago to also serve the McDonald's there, the Arco and Tractor Supply, that area.
Yeah, to elaborate on that real quick, when Les Schwab went in, what Jennifer is describing is the developer bore and jacked under Mono Way to install that 10-inch water main. That was it, an interconnection for fire flow. So we're already across Mono Way with fire flow, proper sized main, and we'd be connecting onto a stub actually that we deliberately left, had the developer leave there as you enter into Arco AMPM and McDonald's. Up there near the sign is a stub that this water main will connect to run to the school.
That is really great news. I was really concerned that we were going to get ourselves into a great big construction deal, trying to get underneath Mono Way and all that. That's always a mess. So really, this has got another winning aspect to it. And I would imagine that at some point in time in the future, the Summit tank will probably be served from up the hill, the Sierra Pines, right? So
Correct.
you could have even more volume and pressure down there. Okay, so then I guess I tried to understand the contract best I could. One of my concerns is, was it TUD engineering department that specified the materials to be used, and how much faith and confidence do you have in the inspector that's being hired? Because we don't have an in-house TUD inspector anymore, at least for right now that I know of, because we're going to own that and have to keep it up. And we don't want to have any problems for a long time. And TUD's crews put it in, that thing would be good for decades. And I'm hoping that that will be the same in this circumstance.
Yeah, so I think that was a kind of a two-part question. The first part is, yes, TUD determines which materials they use. They need to follow our standards. We have a set of standard details, and prior to the project, they will be submitting what we call submittals, and we have to sign off on anything that they put in the ground. We have to see it first, and it has to be signed off. The second part of your question, hang on, to remember the second part. What was your second part?
Confidence in the
Yes,
inspector.
that's right. So we put an RFP out for inspection services because, like you mentioned, we don't have an inspector in-house anymore. I received five proposals for that. We did it qualifications based, so we went through the proposals before looking at the cost, and I feel pretty confident with the group that we did end up getting for them. We have not used them in the past, but that doesn't mean that they're not good. It just means we've never needed to use them in the past because we've always had another inspector. And one of the second highest ranked group that I had ranked, I called them to let them know that they didn't get it. And when they heard that this other group did get it, he said, "Oh, you'll be just fine." So he had confidence in them too, just to let you know that. So this is our first time using them. One really big benefit about this group is that they do their own compaction testing. So the inspector that's going to be out there, we don't have to go call Condor or call some other inspection or special testing firm or compaction testing group to come out and pay extra, because the guy's already out there. That it's actually, there's no extra cost. He's just switching his hats from inspector to compaction tester and then back to inspector.
That's great. Okay, next thing is getting back to the contract from Mazingo, or with Mazingo. What is his warranty period?
The warranty is two years after substantial completion.
And why is it not 5 years? I mean, I know that it's standard to be 1 or 2 years, but if we can't dig up that overlay, that new paving job, I would certainly want to have a guarantee that it get past 5 years.
Yeah, our contracts used to say 1 year, and we did bump it up to 2. I think 1 to 2, like you mentioned, is standard practice. I agree with you. I think sometimes on infrastructure like a tank that's supposed to last 100 years, why do we only have a 2-year warranty? But I think some of that is if it's going to fail, it does fail in the first couple of years. If there's something really wrong with it. And then just so you know, not that we want to do this by any means, but the county's Dig Once policy does allow for emergency excavation. So if something breaks or leaks, we can go in there and fix it, although that would be really unfortunate.
Yes, it would. I would hate to see us get into that position. Then next thing on my list here is and I'm pretty sure the answer is absolutely yes. The town of Standard, they're on sewer, correct?
Correct.
Okay, where does that go out towards Mona Way, or
No, it actually, if opposite, it flows down to our sewer lift station. So you know where the little white church is? We've got a lift station kind of right next to there. It sits back, so you might not ever see it.
You're right. I didn't know that was there. But you mentioned that there was a stub out for another lift station. What's that for?
No, there's no other stub outs for another lift station. I think maybe what you're referring to is TUD as part of this Mazingo's contract. We are getting a water service for that lift station, so that we've got water that we can hose things off with, clean water.
Oh,
so
okay.
we're purchasing from as part of this contract a water service.
Okay, okay. And what condition is that sewer line in?
I don't know the condition of that line.
I
Is
haven't
that-
heard anything. Yeah, I haven't heard anything bad about the line. The sewer lift station itself likely will need to be rehabilitated. And it will be reflected in the 5-year CIP that the board will consider here in a couple months. So, but the line I think is in reasonable condition.
Yeah, I haven't heard
would-
of any repairs or anything on that line.
When was it put in the ground? You know, what concerns me is that it's great that it's going the other direction. But still, they're going to be paving. You know, where is it at? Is it in the road or off the road or whatever? And then if it's not in primo condition, once again, Murphy always has a way of jumping up, and I would hate for us to have to be digging into that brand new overlay.
I agree.
And then let me see here. I guess when the project's done, the keys are going to get handed over to TUD to operate, service, and repair and maintain in the future by TUD employees, staff, and so on at the ratepayer's expense. I'm not overly thrilled with the fact that we have to do some pumping, but I'll be looking forward to when that intertie that's from the summit tank gets its water from up the hill, and you can gravity feed the whole thing and get away from this pump-itis that we seem to always have. And I guess that's about it for me. I had some things that I had want to bring up about Benita site. You know, these contracts that he has gone into with TUD. I don't remember the board ever seeing them, and I would have loved to have seen what all's involved and just exactly what he's paid for capacity fees, especially back in wherever it was, 1997, when the 2-inch line was first installed, and how much of that town is actually truly going to be having paid their way for the capacity of TUD water and infrastructure. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, if I might just add, I've only seen one of the 3 agreements, and that the one of the 3 is the one from August 5th of 2010, and it does spell out that in 1997 he connected 2 of his buildings. After that, in 98 he connected 3 more buildings, and then in 2010 he connected 2 more buildings. So I at least know that much. And then as far as the ownership and the maintenance of that line, just want to remind you that there is $200,000 of connection fees from the school. Portion of that does go to our distribution system plus the rates. And then as far as Mr. Benitez goes, right now he's paying, I did the math earlier, I don't have the exact dollars in front of me, but right now he's paying for 1 2-inch service. And after this, he's going to be paying for 9 services. And so he's going to be paying about 4 times more than he's paying now. David?
All right, thank you. First, a comment for Director Ringen. There is a portion of the gravity collection system that's in standard roadway, but that could be done with a rehab on that could be done with no dig technology. The force main from the lift station actually goes through the mill out to Camage Road for tying back in, so it goes opposite direction. The 5-year moratorium, Jennifer, on no digging in a newly paved roadway. How far ahead of time do we know of the county's paving projects? And does it
Okay.
allow us enough time for budget to,
Right. We try to get with them periodically. I'd say TUD has a pretty good relationship with several key players over there. We do utility coordination meetings, and we try to let them know in advance when we are going to be doing projects, for the same reason as for them letting us know about their projects, because we want to make sure that they don't have something planned either. So it varies. Sometimes it could be a year, sometimes it could be a few years. They can see our 5-year capital improvement budget, and we can see theirs. Everything's public. So it's just a matter of, asking and pulling the document to see what they're up to.
okay. In the contract, with Mazingo Construction, is there a timeline for the supplies for him to acquire the pipe and fittings appearances for completing the project?
Yes. So the contract has 90 days. And so as soon as we issue the notice of award, which would hopefully be after this board meeting, they're going to go order materials immediately. I know that they've got some concerns even just from when they did their bid to now, about escalating prices. Pipe suppliers aren't even holding their prices for even a day anymore. So yeah, they'll be ordering pretty immediately with the long lead times. And I'm intending on issuing the notice to proceed and having them start construction in April or May when weather's good, and hopefully finish up in June.
Okay. The 2-year warranty on the pipeline project after it's in the ground for water project, does that also apply to any sanitary sewer projects? District expand both at the same time?
So for this contract, there's no sewer in it, no. But for other contracts, all of it, it's our standard language to put 2 years for all of our contracts.
That's standard and it applies to both sides of the district. Okay. The flushing and cleaning of the 12-inch line, what flow velocity is needed to clean a 12-inch line?
I do not know off the top of my head.
2 feet per second, usually, kind of like your wastewater.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant like how much water. Sorry.
Yeah.
I did know that answer.
Okay, so you said 6 feet per?
2 feet,
Two.
2 feet per second.
2 feet, so it's about half of the fire flow flow then going through that line. Is there any way to reuse that water that is basically purged out of our system up in that area, such as going to the SPI ponds or some other, it's still going to be a large amount of water.
It might be hard. We spoke with Matt. Our concern was that he could flush the line, it being the size of the line. And he assured us he could. I love what you're thinking, where you're going there. And we can talk with Matt offline to see if laying some hose out to get back to the Phoenix ditch or into the SPI pond, because they are one of our largest raw water users, would allow us to recycle some of that flush water. It's a great idea, but we haven't explored it, and I don't see an immediate obvious way to get there because the ditch is kind of to the west and farther north than where most of these hydrants will be. But yeah, we could certainly explore that with Matt and the distribution folks.
Yeah, it would be nice to see that, reused. I imagine that line would be on at least a semi-annual, flushing cycle. But, all right, thank you.
Any further questions from the board? Okay, seeing none. Before we open it up to public comment, I wanted to make sure that we thank our presenters, and thank you, Don, and Curtis Creek Elementary School for being extremely proactive here And you got the ball rolling. You got a grant that was big enough to include everybody's time and resources. So really, thank you so much for that, taking that leadership. That was awesome. We appreciate that. This project seems to clear up some of the Benitez fuzzy areas and provide more fire flow for this area when there's a lot of competition for fire flow. So with that, Cindy or Melissa, is there any public comment on this?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Well, that was a great presentation, and I also appreciate the committee work because Jeff and I asked a lot of questions at that meeting, and you guys were very prepared, so thank you for that. Okay, well, with that, if there's no further discussion, then I'll call for a motion.
Sure, I'll make a motion that we accept the, let me scroll back to what the wording is. That we authorize the general manager to execute a construction agreement with Mozingo Construction.
I'll second that.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Is there any member of the public that wishes to weigh in?
Not at this time.
Thank you. All right, then I'll bring it back to the board for a roll call vote. Melissa?
Okay, Director Balin,
Aye.
Director Boatright,
Aye.
Director Kearns,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Ringen.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. And again, thanks staff for all your hard work on this and Curtis Creek. Okay. All right, with that, we'll go to the next item. Melissa, will you please read item number 3? And I believe Director Kearns needs to recuse himself on this item. So we'll bring you back in.
Yes, I do, President Balin, so I'll go ahead and leave. And Melissa, I believe you still have my cell phone. You can give me a jingle when you're done, correct?
I will do.
All right, thank you. See you in a bit.
Director Kearns, the basis of the conflict, please.
Yeah, we've done services for the property in question here within the last 2 years.
Okay, your title company.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure that's in the minutes as well, Melissa.
Thank you.
Anything else you need from me? Okay, see you in a bit.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, Melissa, please read item number 3.
Okay, consider approval of variance for sewer service to a non-adjacent parcel, Tennyson.
Right, good morning, everyone. I'm Antonio Ramirez from the TUD Engineering Department. I provide customer service for the department. The item I have before you today is a variance from wastewater section 3.01, which requires a public sewer main be adjacent to the property. The purpose of this rule is to allow for an orderly and efficient expansion of the public sewer collection system. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Are you all able to see this?
Yes,
Yes.
Antonio.
All right,
It's also
great.
the same one that was in the packet, correct?
Yes, it should all be the same. I've got a few additional pictures at the end of my document here that I'll also share with you. Okay, so the project area is actually, it's right here, and it is accessed by Knowles Hill Drive, which is, you kind of take well, you can kind of see June Street or Church Streets, and it's some houses you often see up on top of the hill. But the sewer connection is going to come from a different direction. And so this is the south end of town. You have Sonora Lumber and Subway down at the south end of town here. So it kind of gives you an idea. This is Washington Street here where my arrow is. Okay, we'll go down to the next slide. Here we have, this is the exhibit. This is the house. Michael Tennyson owns this property, and on the property, there's a single family residence. The property is currently served with a septic system. The septic system is actually here where the W is, roughly. This is a garage. And you'll see here in this map, this is the existing public sewer main that is serving everyone else up on Knowles Hill Drive. And so it goes from this point and kind of goes northward and then down towards Washington. There are also public TUD public sewer mains here in Washington Street, up Toby and across McGowan here. And Mr. Tennyson, he and I have been working for quite some time, about 6 months or so. And initially I had indicated that the department indicated he should be going this direction. His septic system is in a state of disrepair, and it's in a location that's just not desirable. And the city really wants any failing septic to attempt to look at connecting to the public sewer system as part of their ordinance. So in our initial conversations, they explored options of trying to go towards this sewer main, but it's fairly difficult to do and it's going to require pumping. So as an alternative, he's requested this variance to run a private line, approximately here where this dash line is. This would probably be a 3-inch line, and across an adjacent intervening parcel owned by a customer name or property owner named Witt, last name Witt. And this person is aware of the project and has a letter that they've provided that they would are agreeable to the project, the private sewer line, and that they would grant an easement for private sewer line purposes when the project's completed. Our maintenance responsibilities would be here at a manhole that was recently installed by the district, and essentially it would just be a sewer stub with 2 cleanouts. We'll get a better look at that here in the next slide. At this point, are there any questions? Lisa, go ahead.
Just clarifying, right? So the reason for doing the longer one is that I think I read that there's a couple of stacked rock retaining walls behind his house that would also make it really difficult to get to that sewer line. And that by doing this, we're using gravity going downhill, and that seems preferable. And also that the sewer line is a better sewer line. Is that correct? That we're tapping into?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and jump ahead and to these images of the property. So let's go to this one. So our sewer, we have a sewer main here, which kind of runs this direction roughly, and it's an older sewer line. It's vitreous clay, does have some imperfections, let's say, and if we end up pumping, they'd be pumping roughly kind of coming out in this area and pumping uphill on private property into this main, which, again, this sewer main isn't ideal, and we wouldn't want someone pumping into it, creating further. Field staff feels as though it's going to create more problems and potentially worse issues on the sewer main. Whenever I do these, I ask the field staff, what's your opinion? Just to get their perspective operationally, and they felt that the gravity line going the other direction was a better route, that this was going to create problems for us. Here's the retaining wall that they're trying to avoid. So the septic system is further down slope. If they come out this way, they've got to come, no matter how they come out, they've got to come around this retaining wall, which is essentially just a stacked rock wall. It doesn't really have a footing according to the engineer. And it's just sort of veneered with a concrete. There's another retaining wall here. Everything around this property is concrete and retaining walls. The concrete flat work, concrete retaining walls. Here's the picture we've seen before. Here's a closer look at, again, the concrete that they would need to be dealing with. This is their access to their basement. So this kind of gives you an idea of what they're dealing with and why they really didn't want to go this direction with a private sewer pump. They just don't have the much area to work with. So here's the letter for the property owners provided, which I'm sure you probably have all read. So let me go back up to our street view here, which is what sort of represents the project, how it's going to look. So here's a new sewer manhole, didn't exist last year. We put it in recently. And there's actually a stub on this currently ready for use. So we don't have to core the manhole. They can just literally attach to it. And there will be a couple clean outs here. They got to kind of somehow work around these mailboxes here. But this kind of gives you an idea roughly where the two clean outs would be. One clean out's going to go to the vacant WIT parcel. The other one will be right next to it, but will come up this way. And I try to draw it here. It looks funny, but this will all be underground and given enough distance to stay away from the cemetery that's up here. I'm going to go back to this image here. You can't really see it, but here is the cemetery. And whenever I look at variances, I look to see, well, are there other parcels that can be served by it? And obviously, you're not going to have sewer uses at the cemetery. This other property here, the way the topography is, it's probably going to go to the south and connect down at Lytton. So it didn't make sense to, extend the main up this Toby right away here, somehow get under around the cemetery. It just seemed like, there wasn't really any need to go any further with the public main. It just increases our maintenance responsibility and liabilities. I want to go back to the street view. Are there any questions on the street view? Okay. I think I've kind of summed it up for the most part. The wastewater ordinance or wastewater committee did look at this and recommended it to go to the full board for your consideration. They had some questions which I listed in the staff report. One of which was a good question, which is the WIT parcel, it's vacant. I won't be collecting capacity fees from them. That'll happen when and if they decide to develop the property, build a house or whatever it is they decide to do here. So at this point, it'll just be a stub with a sewer clean out waiting for future development. So with that, I think, Eric, unless you feel I missed something, I'll be happy to take some questions.
Thank you, Antonio. Is it possible to put the gallery of board and staff back on the screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
Okay, then we can see if there's any questions.
All right. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. Is there any questions from any of the directors or concerns or comments?
I don't see any hands up.
I do. Director Murphy.
Yeah, I just, on the last part you were just talking about, the stub, I'm looking at that. And is that where the concrete pad is, or is that down by where the mailboxes are that you said for the WIT parcel in the future?
Both stubs will be there in that street view drawing. There's the two little triangles. Those are kind of real rough idea where the cleanouts will be. The cleanouts will be near the mailboxes, basically.
And that's where if they develop the WIT property, they would then connect into those.
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Just making sure I didn't miss anything.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Okay, seeing none. Cindy, is there any member of the public that wishes to comment?
No, there's not.
Thank you. Okay, well, with that, is there a motion for this item?
Madam President, I would make the motion that we approve a variance from the wastewater ordinance regarding the sewer service for non-adjacent property, Tennyson.
I'll second that.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Melissa, will you please, any member of the public wish to comment? Or any other concerns? Thank you. Okay, then with that, Melissa, will you please call for the vote?
Okay, Director Balin,
Aye.
Director Boatright,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Ringen.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 4-0 with Director Kearns recused.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you. Well, we'll wait a few minutes for Director Kearns to get back before we move to the next item.
I'm back.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, Melissa, will you please read agenda item number 4? Well, I'll go ahead and read it. Mid-year capital improvement program progress report. I believe that's Steve.
Actually, Steve is right after this related to the budget. And this is just the mid-year CIP review, and I'll be brief. I know we still have a bit left on this agenda, so I'll go quick here. I think it was late last year, some of the board members, in particular, Director Boatwright, expressed a desire to get an update on the status of our CIP, Capital Improvement Program, Capital Improvement Plan. You know, we kind of used all of those synonymously. Seemed reasonable to do this in conjunction with the mid-year budget review, which follows this item. As a recap, our board adopted a CIP last June for this fiscal year. It had 26 projects. It was about $12.7 million. And since that time, we've added a few grant-funded projects, one of which was the Curtis Creek project you just heard about, some Cal OES generators that we're installing, and the county agreed to fund the washer compactor as part of the Law and Justice Center lift station upgrade. A capital improvement expenditure is something that's $50,000 or more. That excludes vehicles and equipment. Those can be less than 50,000, but in general, we're talking about something that's more than 50,000 that will be capitalized. The slide deck for our report today was in your staff report, so I'm not going to go through in great detail every single project in there. Happy to answer any questions you guys may have about that, but I'll probably just highlight 4 or 5 projects here. But before we dive in, I want to give a shout out and recognize the work of our construction maintenance crew and operations staff in general. And many of these projects are really a function of heavy collaboration between engineering and operations in project scope, and then working through maybe right-of-way acquisition, environmental design. We employ a really flexible and a great toolbox, if you will, in order to deliver these projects. So we can design in-house, or we can put it out to bid for a proposal for a consulting engineer. We can build in-house, or we can use contractors. We hybridize those, we blend those. It really allows us to be very, very flexible. It allows us to deliver projects under budget with less change orders, and also to accelerate. If this board has a priority to make a project go a lot faster, we also have on-call consultants and contractors that we can employ to do that. And generally speaking, we're going to try to utilize TUD crews to build most projects. They're the most cost effective for us, but there's limits to everything. As you know, they are really great at water mains and sewer mains and those kinds of activities. But if it's a specialty kind of activity, building a tank, and obviously our wastewater plant is too big, if the project's too big, we're going to go ahead and contract that out. If it's grant funded, such as Curtis Creek Elementary School, we're going to go ahead and have the grant fund an outside contractor to do that work, so that our crews can focus on the other critical infrastructure needs the district has. So let me see here. I'll share screen and see if I can get this for you guys. Well, I don't think you're looking at the right screen now, are you? Just a second. Sorry. Here we go. All right. Is that something that's visible to the group?
There you go. You got it now,
I
Eric.
like it. You know, 3 clicks and eventually you're there. So we'll just jump right into this. This is the list of projects that we were going to just address in this progress report. It's not all the projects in the capital schedule, but these are ones that we've been working pretty closely with operations on. And in the first one I'd like to highlight here is Cedar Rock Pump Station. I should say Eric Hall, if he desires to jump in, this was constructed by our crews. The Cedar Rock Pump Station, I don't have a map for you, but if you're familiar coming off of Highway 108 and jumping on Twain Hart Drive, if you will, there's a dentist office up there. This pump station serves that upper zone. Unfortunately, when we had a PSPS event, we didn't have a generator. They would run out of water and in some cases depressurize part of the system. So we've purchased a generator. We've built a retaining wall, as you can see there, for a new generator. And we also upgraded the system with new pumps and controls. And I believe that this is, if it isn't operational now, Matt Nolte is very close to getting some of the bugs worked out, and this should be operational shortly. See here, Crossroads Sewer Lift Station Abandonment. This has been discussed at the board before, but it is a great project. Our crews dug the bore pits that you see here, and then we hired Pacific Boring to come in, and we first secured encroachment permits from Caltrans, completed the bore under the highway, and then TUD crews extended the sewer main and did the connections on the upstream side. This is behind Walmart. If you haven't ever been back there, there's a small building that houses the Crossroads Sewer Lift Station. That will now be abandoned, and wastewater will flow by gravity under the highway and into the existing sewer collection system we have on the Law and Justice Center site and down to the lift station that TUD has. And I can't see if there's any hands being raised, so just feel free to stop me at any time. Matlow Ditch Pipeline Projects, also complete, operational as of September last year. This project was really a wonderful addition to the raw water system, because what our Columbia Water Treatment Plant relied on surface water from the Matlow ditch running into the plant. Well, when the plant went on to a backwash and then alternated back into production cycle, the difference in demands, unfortunately, you can't control the ditch and turn it up and down instantaneously. We had about 300 acre-feet of water that would run by the plant every year that we're now able to maintain up above in the Matlow Reservoir. And this pipe would go from the reservoir, or goes from the reservoir directly to the treatment plant. Better water quality, more efficient. And what you see below is a cladding or a shroud, if you will, of a riveted steel pipe that has been placed over the new water main to give it a more historic feel and appearance there. So yeah, that project is currently operational. And then the Phoenix Dam and Spillway Rehab project, we were hoping to do this last year. This is a DSOD, Division of Safety of Dams requirement to reface the spillway at Phoenix. As you can see, there's a lot of wear and tear and spalling and pitting in the concrete here. There's even, you can't see it here, but some of the reinforcing steel is showing. So we bid this last year and had a contractor lined up to do the work, but with the threat of curtailment and water supply issues, we decided to defer that to this year. And hopefully we won't get delayed again, but we're geared up to start this April 1st. and have a local contractor do this work for us and then put it back into service by the end of June. Ideally, we're going to want to put this back in service so we can capture any spill water to top off Phoenix Lake at the end of the spill season. And then this is a project the board is probably aware of. The board authorized hiring Carollo engineers to do an assessment of the Sonora water treatment plant. One of the things that came out of that was something we already knew, and that is and the board also took a tour of the site, was that the controls and the electrical service were a critical vulnerability. So it's an understatement. So we have working with automation group of Modesto to get new controls, new programming, and our crews have also recently dewatered the sedimentation basin, cleaned it out, and shored up, replaced portions of the baffles in the sedimentation basin. So we're working through the upgrades, including we'll be constructing a new metal building for chlorine and polymer storage. And then ideally, you'll see in the next 5-year CIP some other phased improvements to improve the reliability of the overall facility. I think that's probably a good summary of the highlights. As you can see, there's 19 slides here. I'm not going to go through the rest of them, but I'm happy to entertain any questions. I'll stop sharing right now that the board may have related to any of the other projects.
Thank you, Eric. Oh, I see some hands. I'll just go ahead and monitor. Who was first? I didn't see.
David.
Okay, well.
All right, thank you, Director Ring. Eric, I don't know if it's appropriate at this time. I have some questions on the Twinehart wastewater treatment plant study as far as its finances and RFP for our selected contractor doing that work.
Well, this is a CIP status update. I mean, if it's something that's a little more detailed, maybe we should talk offline. I think it would be more conducive to get you all the answers you need. But if it's more kind of superficial related to the status of the project and where we're at in the process, then.
No, it's actually, how did we actually choose the Pace Engineering, and were there other competitive bids for that study?
Pace is one of our on-call contractors and consultants, and we decided to use Pace based on their qualifications in previous visits to the site. So that was, we didn't go out with a formal RFP for consulting services for that because of our relationship with Pace, particularly on the regional wastewater treatment plant project. They were really best suited. They were also very familiar with the interceptor, which is part of the abandonment, if you will, for the Twinehart plant. So no, the answer to your question is we didn't do a full-fledged RFP. We exercised our on-call authority to use Pace to do the work.
Okay, what was or what is the cost for Pace doing that service?
It's under the $150,000 threshold. I don't have the dollar amount right in front of me. I think it's around 120, David, but I can get you the exact number.
All right, thank you.
Ron, go ahead.
Okay, so my questions real quick. The 5-year line for the Sonora water treatment plant, is that basically set up as to what the timeline hopefully will be for getting the new Sonora water treatment plant up and running, or right in the ballpark?
That's a great question. That's almost a strategic level decision for this board to grapple with when we look at the, I'm sorry, I can't give you the definitive answer here. we are mostly focused on getting the existing plant in a reliable state. And then we will look at ways in which we can finance fund through grants and do the other improvements offsite so that we could eventually have another plant. I can tell you, we're not going to have a new Sonora water treatment plant in 5 years on the Ridge site. We acquired the land, but there's so many other steps there, including preliminary design, that I think our focus is really to get the existing plant to last at least 10 years. And in that window of time, we can look at developing a new facility on the Ridge site.
Okay, that's great. And then one other really quick thing that's related. Once the new Sonora water treatment plant comes online, will pretty much all of the system that it will serve be gravity fed?
There will be a few locations where pumping will still be needed, but it will increase. The elevation of the new plant is, say, over 100 feet higher than the current plant. So we will be able to increase the area served by gravity, but we will still need to pump into Mono Village at the East Sonora site, unless we want to serve that through Sierra Pines. So the board here is going to have lots of options. We're going to be able to bring water from up above, bring water from Phoenix during a ditch outage, blend, intertie. There's a lot of opportunities here, but we will be improving the amount of our customers that would receive gravity service.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Ron. Any other questions from the board? I have one. Go ahead, Director Murphy.
Sure.
There we go. Sorry about that. The Sonora treatment plant, right? It would still utilize the tanks at the current treatment plant in the big picture thing. And would it be able to get water over to that without any pumping, just gravity pushing it up the hill?
Correct. We would still use the tanks at the existing Sonora site, and correct, the new plant would be able to gravity feed over to the old plant site.
Even though it would have to go down and up.
Yes.
The pressure would work. All right, great, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, Eric, I have a question. Are these CIPs, this is, a lot of this is because of our implemented rate increases over the last few years. Are these projects easily available, the CIP on our website, so folks can see how their money's being spent?
This particular progress report would need to be posted in a more visible location so that our ratepayers wouldn't have to dig down into an agenda package to find it. We have placed we have a whole area of our website where our projects are highlighted. And then, for instance, Phoenix Lake and the regional wastewater treatment plant. I can certainly have Lisa post this status report on the website in a more visible manner so that, ratepayers can see.
I think that'd be great. In a nutshell, they can see, all the things that are accomplished. Because like you were saying, you've got on-call contractors, but you also use your force account and, combination of ways to get the jobs done parallel, not in sequence, which is how our money's getting spent. That would be great. Good. Oh, okay. Then I'll open it up for public comment. Cindy or Melissa, is there anyone from the public that wishes to comment?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
President Balin, you mind if I just say a couple things? I just got to say personally how really proud I am of all these projects, not just this list, but the list we've seen in the last couple of years. I'm really proud and pleased to see this work being done. Some of these projects are just so important. That Cedar Rock pump station led, before this improvement, this Cedar Rock pump station probably created, I don't know, at least a dozen or so emergency call outs after hours or during PSPS events. Not only was it just didn't have a generator, but it had very antiquated equipment inside. It was, and it's a very high pressure situation. So it was just prone to break down many times during the year, with or without loss of power. So that's going to lead to savings immediately, and not to mention reliability for those customers up there on High Road. The Crossroads lift station one, if you guys remember back before we knew what wipes in the pipes was, this is where it showed up the most, seemingly for me, or that I can recall. And in large part, the crews had to go to this station several times a month just to go hand remove those rags out of that sump. That effort's going to go away. That lift station's going away. We have one less lift station to maintain and operate. Those rags and those flows are going to go down to the brand new sewer law and justice lift station. So another one that Eric didn't touch on, but that Techite replacement line, right? Phase 2 of 3 or 4 phases. Again, man, 2 to 3 times a year, that line would grenade and cause, our crews to be out there every bit of 12 hours trying to get the water shut down, make the repair, and do all the cleanup around the neighborhood. So lots of great work being done, and largely due to in-house construction. Not the Techite line, but we do have, at any given time, we can have 3 crews, TUD crews out there in the public eye, in the public view, doing good work for our crews, for our customers. So anyway, I'm really happy with the way this is going. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Okay, since this is an informational item only, we will just keep that in mind as we move forward. And I appreciate all the hard work. I know the whole board does appreciate. You guys are really visible out there, rain or shine. So it's good work. Thank you. Okay, our next item, let's see. This is I think this is yours, Steve, then. Did I get it right? Okay. So item 5, fiscal year 2022 mid-year budget review.
Good morning, board members. I know we've covered a lot already, so I'll try and be as brief as possible, but this is an important annual item we do. Bear with me. I have just a handful of slides that I'll put up, excuse me. And then there were a couple reports included in your packet. So I think I'll just share screen and go through the slides. And if you hold your questions, maybe that'll be the most efficient way to do it. And let me get started here with the view. Shift. Okay, are you seeing the big blue screen now?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, good, thank you. So pursuant to the board adopted, pursuant to the board adopted budgeting policy, at mid-year, there will be a comprehensive review of the operations to date in comparison to the existing budget. Projections of revenues and expenditures through the end of the fiscal year will be prepared and reviewed by management staff with a report to the board of directors by February of the operating fiscal year. As to revenue projections, the revenue forecasts are based on actual receipts year to date, historical trends, and anticipated consumption by district water customers for the period January through June. Other operating revenues included in the utility billing category include hydrant meters, penalties, septage, and septic fees, and were included in projected revenue as calculated on receipts year to date and a forecast of the remaining months of the fiscal year. Our projection is indicating that we expect water to end up at 325,000 below budget, which is approximately 2%. Sewer, 34,000 below budget, which is 0.5%. And the total utility revenue projection of 1.5% below budget. Some other revenue changes we're projecting: property tax, as it stands, is estimated to be 184,000 over budget, but investment income is expected to be 124,000 under budget. As to expense projection observations, we've kind of broken it down between those we're anticipating to be under budget and those over budget. The single biggest expense for the district's personnel. As it stands right now, we expect it to be 660,000 under budget, which is mainly due to position changes related to retirements, backfill, recruitment timing, and unfilled positions. There are also benefit changes associated with these changes. It includes health insurance, workers' comp, PERS, and MOU modifications. Repairs are projected to be under budget by 155,000 based on actual repairs to date and anticipated estimated remaining work. General and administration categories projected to be under budget by 90,000 due to a variety of account classifications, including general insurance being one of the largest ones as far as the under budget amount. As to categories projected to be over budget, chemicals and supplies, 17,000, which is principally due to fuel costs. Services is projected to be over budget by 159,000 due to consultants. And utilities is projected to be over budget by 111,000 due to electricity. Total expense projected decrease is 618,000, which is 3% compared to budget. This review projects the district having sufficient revenue to meet operating expenses, and as such, no budget revisions are recommended at this time. Now, I do have one other one to share with you real quick. And this one, you're seeing the combined budget report, I'm assuming now. These are the 2 pages that are included in the board packet. This first report is what the board sees each quarter, and it is a combined total budget in the first column for the whole year. The next column is the fiscal activity for the 6 months ending December 31st, the variance between those two, and the percent remaining. Again, if everything was absolutely level across the board from month to month, season to season, you'd expect there to be about 50% remaining, both revenue and expense as well, to get down to the net. Now, the second page we're showing is the mid-year projection. These are amounts that I just referred to in the other slides. All amounts showing on this one is in thousands. So again, we're talking $24 million of revenue budget, not 24,000. But if you look down the list, the first column is adopted budget. The second column is the projected based on us analyzing each of the individual line items. And then the last one being the variance between the two. So as I spelled out there, the revenue total is about 248,000 above budget, and then or below budget, excuse me. And then the expenses, same way. And so netting those two comes with a net of approximately $370,000 there. But I think it's important to mention, if you get down to the bottom of the screen, we added on there these line items. The board, when they adopted the budget, we had a net before CIP, debt principal, and reserves of $5.5 million. As Eric just pointed out, we had an adopted CIP budget of $13 million. We have debt service principal of $200,000. We had reserves that we were going to utilize, principally the sewer reserves, to come out of that. So the board adopted a budget of a deficit $2 million. So if all our projections are in line here, we would still have a deficit of 1.7 million if we were to complete all the CIP. Now, as the board's well aware, CIP projects can be delayed. They can be funded through grant programs that weren't anticipated. And so a variety of it. At this point, I'm going to stop sharing. I just want to make a comment before I open it up to any questions here, is that, really at this point, I said already that we're not recommending any changes to our budget. But that being said, I just feel the need to share with everyone here that I have a lot of anxiety at this point. As we've been talking all year, as we've been looking at the last 2 years with what we've gone through, there's just, for an old CPA, there's a lot of uncertainty here. We're seeing unexpected costs almost on a daily basis. We have a tank that fell down. We had major mainline breaks the last couple of weeks. We've had inflation the last 2 months that we haven't seen in 38 years. We have unbudgeted, unexpected costs outside our primary purposes that have come up. So I feel like we're a razor's edge. On one hand, I'm telling you, we're within our budget. We're doing fine. 6 months to go. Really what we want to do is come March, start working on next year's budget. And we want to work on that 5-year plan. But there's a tremendous unknown now. And I think if we had, one major event or something else. So the ending message is we are continuing to watch our revenue expenses like a hawk on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis. So, in conclusion, we did the analysis, we worked through all the line items. I feel confident that we are within the budget, but we need to be cautious and careful what we do, what we approve, what we go forward with. So with all of that said, I'd be happy, I don't know, Dawn, if you have any comments, any specific questions from board members, I'd be happy to answer anything.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, I appreciate the presentation on the mid-year budget. And, I know almost all of us know this, but financially speaking, where we are today compared to where we were 10 years ago is drastically different, right, Steve? And that's due primarily to you and your team and your attention to detail and being very pragmatic and making darn sure that we will live within our means. And over the years, you and I have had to work together, and I've had to come to you time and time again for money, and more and more money. You've never said no, and you haven't said no yet. But when you give me, when you raise that little flag of caution, you get my attention, and I appreciate it. And we'll work hard and do everything we can to stay within budget. So, Steve, thank you for the presentation.
Director Kearns, I see your hand up.
Yeah, Steve, thank you for that presentation. I really don't have a question. It's more of a statement, but I'm really glad to hear you say what you said there at the end, because my feelings are very much the same. Just like in the conversation we had with the Curtis Creek School extension, with Mazingo needing to purchase that pipe as soon as possible. And that gets to that inflation comment you make. I mean, that is the monster that will be fed over the coming years, and we're going to have to face that fact, and it's going to change. It's going to change what we are able to do into the future, and to the degree we want to do it. So I'm very glad that you're keeping an eye on that. I had no doubt that you would anyway, but I appreciate your comments, and I'm right there with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Ringen.
Yeah, I'd like to second what Director Kearns just said, but I also want to add that, I watch the claim summary like a hawk, number one. Number two, I keep a real close eye on all the projects. And although I agree we need to be cautious, I just want to remind everybody about how much our crews, engineering and crews especially the crews, have accomplished. And these are projects that used to cost us all kinds of overtime, call outs in the middle of the night, things like that, that are now, we're not going to even have to think about for decades. So we're saving a ton of money too, and we've accomplished. I'm just really proud of the employees and of how much they've been able to get done. A lot of this has been due to when Don Perkins was pounding on the table as operations manager, and now he's in the control seat and he's keeping it going. And then now we've got a new operations manager, Eric Hall, and he's going down that same road. So let's not get pessimistic here. Let's keep optimistic, just not go overboard.
Any other questions for Steve? Okay, seeing none. Is there any member of the public that wishes to comment?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Steve, thanks for a real clear presentation. And if there's no further questions, then I think that it says here, the Finance Committee and staff recommend the board receive and file this report. So is there I believe that would be a motion item. Is there a motion to receive and file this report?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
I would second that.
Thank you, David. Any further discussion? Seeing none, any member of the public?
No, none at this time.
Okay, with that, then we will ask, I'll ask Melissa for the vote call.
Okay, Director Balin,
Aye.
Director Boatright,
Aye.
Director Kearns,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Ringen.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Thanks again, Steve.
Thank you.
My hard work, good. Okay, so we're on to, I believe, staff reports and Eric Hall.
Good morning, board members.
Yeah?
For item number 6, operational update on the water and wastewater departments for January 2022.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Okay.
Good morning, board members and everyone. I was just going to talk about a few things. Page 8, which I don't want to highlight a whole lot, but the Michigan tank failure. What I do want to highlight there on page 10 is how well the crews and how quickly they got the parts together and got that zone 3 area back in water. I think it was only down for about 6 hours. The crews that did it, they did just a great job there. So it's to have the manpower and the brain power to figure that out, to get water from one zone to the other, it was just a great job by all those involved. And the next thing we're going to talk about, page 15, which it's been touched on a few times, is the Crossroads lift station. Don said it really well with that consolidation. It's great. The time it's going to save. The nice thing about that is Caltrans reached out to Jennifer and said, "Boy, we wish all the contractors that did this work did the cleanup and everything as nice and neat as that they did." So that was very nice to hear from Caltrans. I have another friend that works for Tykert asked, "Who did that for you guys?" And we said, "We did it in-house." And he said, "Man, you guys did a great job with the cleanup there." So that's really neat to hear out and about. So hats off to the crews with that. So that's about all I was going to talk about, unless anybody has any questions.
I think David and then Director Murphy.
All right, thank you. Eric, on the zone 3 tank failure, are we still able to maintain fire flow up in that area without that tank?
Yes, we are. With how they plumbed everything through the pump station, yes, it's still there.
Okay, very good. And then the only other question I have might get referred off to somebody else. Let's see, what page was it? Page 59. The operations report showing courts to be substantially down in level from last year. And with last year's, we had a little bit of carryover coming into this storage season. Have we got any effort to make that up? We made contact with the ranchers to, start explaining, hey, we're running 200 acre feet shy of what we were last year.
Yeah, there's been some discussions. We've had some internal discussions where we're already starting to move some water into courts, some supplemental, because we saw that. And in the discussion last week, it had come up quite a bit, so Michelle and Rich were definitely a little bit happier, but we definitely know we need to supplement. We're going to keep doing that.
Okay. And, just kind of an emphasis to make contact with the ranchers as to where we're at. I know we're planning a reclamations annual meeting prior to start of season, but that might actually be a little bit too far on the late side to let them know, where we're at.
Yeah, I agree. Rich, Michelle, and myself, we've been talking about that, and try and get the right message out there and let everybody know where we're at. So we're working on it.
Yeah, it just don't want to blindside them. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
A hand up for Director Murphy and Director Ringen.
Am I getting called on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I just, a lot of people have asked about that tank failure up in Twinehart. And one, that was a steel bolted tank, correct?
Can you say that again?
What kind of tank was that? Was it steel bolted tank?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Do we know the what caused the failure?
We do not. We're still waiting on the report from the insurance company.
Okay, but it, in conversations I've heard that it wasn't an expected thing. Otherwise, we would have done preventative maintenance on that. And on that, just to be clear of understanding, so what we did was just bypass that tank, right, to provide water for those communities?
In short, yes, we had to go up to the tank and we had to cap the line that fed it. It was a push-pull, and then Zone 3 pump station, they had to replumb and put a PRV so the water could come down from the tank up in Sugar Pine and feed that area.
Okay, and then the end goal is to replace the tank up there and reconfigure to utilize it?
Yes.
Okay, and do we have a timeline on that, or is that all?
We're still working on the property acquisition, that's going along well there. Yeah, I know it's up in the new CIP we're working on now to try and, we need to have it before ditch outage.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, if that tank up there that failed is going to be replaced, is there enough room? Dollars, it's going to be a problem too, but would that be something that, if it's going to be replaced, we certainly don't want to abandon it at any time in the near future. So is there enough room to put 2 tanks there so that we have redundancy, so that they can be serviced and taken care of one at a time?
So what we're going to do is replace up in the Zone 4 area and just make that tank larger.
Where's the Zone 4? I forget.
It's up in Sugar Pine. We've got a tank up there now. We're purchasing that property from SBI.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So there'll be 2 tanks up there then?
No, just one larger tank.
How do we service it and so on? I mean, I know that would be probably 20 years down the road or something, but still.
Well, because it's going to be pumped and there's going to be some hydro stations off of that tank there, I would guess we would do the plumbing so we could get it offline, do the work we needed to do, and then keep the bypass that we have now and things, like that. It's something we're going to have to talk about with engineering.
Okay, all right. And then my last thing that I want to know is who is the person that took over your position before you became operations manager?
There's nobody there yet. I'm still covering that position too.
Oh my God. All right, thanks.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Remind me again how big that tank was that failed, gallons wise, and then what you're planning on putting back in there to replace it with?
It was 125,000 that was up there. It usually had about 100,000 gallons in it. I don't know if we settled on a size yet for the new Zone 4.
Okay, and I assume it's a 3-ring, 24 feet high?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. All right, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Eric?
I've got my.
It is Director Murphy.
Yeah, physical hand up. Just to totally understand, right? So this tank is not going to get replaced on this site.
Correct.
Okay. Will we keep this site as if we need it for whatever might come?
We haven't discussed that part of it yet. We're still working on getting the cleanup around there done and everything situated. And that discussion will come.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any member of the public wish to comment, Cindy?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yeah, it's kind of like a crime scene, right, Eric? It's just kind of until the insurance people come through. Anyway, okay, so this is an informational item only, so we really appreciate your thoroughness and your report on this. And I know the board's anxious to figure out that whole tank situation up there. And again, yeah, the crews did a really good job getting it all replumbed. So yeah, please extend our thank you to them.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on that note, Melissa, will you please read item number 7?
Okay, Sonora Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant Progress Report.
All right, very well. I think Jennifer's going to take this. I'll just, we'll be brief again. Status update on the Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant project. The overall goal here is to just bring the board along through this, 18-month, 24-month construction period so that you don't have any surprises as we come into the finish line here. And it's Jennifer and my job, as well as others, is to look out on the horizon and see if we see any budget issues, technical issues, any relationship issues with our partners, USDA, PACE, and our on-site inspector. So that's the objective of this, and we're happy to answer any questions that aren't even related to this. But Jennifer, why don't you take it away?
All righty. All right, so here we are, February 22nd, 2022, and everything so far is going really smoothly. I'll just jump right to it. We are currently still working on the 2 clarifier units down here. They've placed several of the walls of the clarifier now. We are about halfway done with wall placement, and we should be completely done by the end of probably in the next 3 weeks with the walls. We had one area right about this location where my cursor is, where we had them chip it out and replace concrete in it. It seemed like maybe there was an air bubble that got in there, and the vibratory unit that they had didn't vibrate the concrete enough to get into this void. So we did issue our first notice of nonconformance, and they have since corrected that. They're pulling the forms off today, and it should have final inspection later on today. So far, all the walls on the west clarifier have been going really smoothly. We did add a new star to the chart this week, or this month, I should say. Right here, you can kind of see where the existing pond was. It still currently is, but they've drained this pond temporarily and are building out the emergency storage basin, which is this one, item number 12. They've laid some dirt down in here. So you'll notice the next time you drive by that this corner of that pond will be looking a little bit different. Also, what they're doing is now that they've built this corner in, they're going to take all the water out of pond 1 and put it into pond 2. And you're going to start seeing a lot more earthwork occurring here in pond 1 over the next couple months. Currently, we've spent about $5.8 million, all of which has come out of TUD's budget. As mentioned before, we've got grant and loan, USDA grant and loan as well, but we need to use our funds first. So we're making progress on that. There's kind of a breakdown. Not much has changed just as far as some of these upfront items here or this one, but construction did move up a little bit and engineering did move up a little bit.
Hey, Jen, can we just real quick, just want to point out to the board that we are monitoring the engineering component of the cost here. Jennifer's done some cost projections, and we do have a little bit of a concern about how quickly we're spending money in relationship to the percent progress on the project. And so we've reached out to the consultant, and we have some ideas of how to slow down that expenditure. But part of it is just a function of at the very beginning of a project, you have a lot of submittals. Submittals are, very labor intensive. We review what is a packet. There's like 1,000 of them potentially on this job where they submit to the engineer and they review to make sure they're in compliance with the technical specifications and in conformance with the overall contract. And so there's a lot of that upfront work, which explains some of this, but I just want to point that out. As you see these monthly progress reports, we're going to be keeping our eyes on all these items, but engineering in particular right now.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, the submittals, they could range anywhere between 5 and 150 pages. It just depends on what item it is. And they've already submitted the submittals for the big 5, kind of more like 6 big pieces of equipment, if you want to include the clarifiers as well. So that's where a lot of that time did end up going. But we will be monitoring that really closely. So in January and half of February, we've installed the rebar on the east and west clarifier walls. I'll show you some pictures on the next slide. Concrete wall placement on the east clarifier walls, and each clarifier is divided into 4 separate pours. So there's 8 walls total for each, and they do 2 walls at a time. And then, as I mentioned, starting last week, they did start on bringing in some fill to start on the emergency storage basin. Some of the fast facts this week or this month, 195 completed submittals, 116 reviewed RFIs, 0 safety incidents. Our construction completions roughly 13%, and so far we are on budget. The 3-month look ahead, we're going to continue to form and place the clarifier walls. We're going to install the under drain system for the emergency storage basin, and TUD crews are going to do sludge removal out of pond 1 here within the next month. So here's some photos. Here's some rebar installation on the east clarifier. These vertical bars are stubbed into the concrete. They were part of the first concrete placement so that it's all, that the walls are connected to the slab. These big yellow things are formwork for the clarifiers. They come out the radius is already pre-made on there. They deliver them into 3 pieces and they build them from the top piece up. And just, sorry, I said that backward. They start from the top down. So they'll take a crane attached to the first piece, lift up and set it on the second piece, and then lift up again and then connect the third piece. So there's in the interior wall forms and then exterior wall forms, and then they pour the concrete inside. So this is an interior wall form. This one is also an interior wall form. But I like this picture because you can kind of see the level of effort that it does take for these guys to get the rebar in. They were smart. They built a lot of this mat on the ground and then just waited until the very end and lifted it in. But these crew workers have to wear harnesses and hook in and tie all these rebar pieces together. So it's quite a bit of work. And that is a subcontractor for Kiewit that's doing that work called CMC. Here's another shot of that rebar. You have the vertical rebar that goes into the slab, and then the vertical and horizontal rebar that goes around the tank. This is a picture of the concrete pump truck and kind of how long its reach is. And at the very end, it's got a, well, it's hard to see here, but you can definitely see it right there, the tube that feeds the concrete into the form. So they're doing it in a couple lifts at a time. They do about 5 feet, vibrate it, move to the next wall, do 5 feet there, vibrate it, and then move back to the first so that they don't want to put too much concrete in all at once and have it all blow out the bottom. And by switching back and forth, it allows the concrete to cure a little bit before adding more. And then here's just another picture of the wall forms. So that's it for today. I don't know if you guys have any questions about that.
Any questions, comments, concerns from the board? Okay, thank you. Any member of the public wish to comment?
No, not now.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jennifer. That was really informative. Those slides are really amazing to see the scale of the construction and the rebar, and helps the board appreciate the amount of engineering know-how that's going into this, and subcontractors, et cetera. It's big. Yeah. And
Definitely learning a lot.
Yeah. Well, and also having to redo some things that might have been substandard. I really appreciate, that trailer that you guys put out there. That's really well worth it, so that you can stay on top of the project, make sure that you can accept it according to our standards. So that's great. Okay, all right. So this is an informational item only again. And, oh yes, Director Murphy.
Just real quick, when the sort of expectation of the timeline of when this project will be completed and we'll switch from the old sewer treatment plant to the new treatment plant. Do we have a window for that still? Are we still on track?
Yeah, so the substantial completion is around July, I want to say 20th or 24th or so, like somewhere at the middle to end of July. And then the final completion is October 18th of 2023. So both of those dates were in 2023. And the substantial completion is important because that is when we will make that swap from our existing plant to our new plant.
That's the October date?
That's the July date.
Is when we do the switchover?
Yeah, we'll start testing it and all of that.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, let's move on to staff reports. Anything further from staff?
Not for me. Director Balin, not for me.
Okay. Looks like everybody's good. You good, Abby? Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Hi, thanks.
Good afternoon, or good morning all. We're still in the morning. Thank you for the opportunity. Today, I just wanted to bring up an awesome email that we received from a customer back at the very end of January. So I apologize, I did not share this at the last meeting, but I thought it was important to give kudos to. We have been throughout the meeting giving kudos to the construction maintenance crew, but we did have an instance that a customer wanted to compliment the construction maintenance crew that repaired a water leak at Hitching Post Road a couple of at the end of January. He said that they came out and repaired as soon as they could. They did a great job, and even the foreman got down and dirty. Those were his words. He was very impressed by the crew's work and wanted to pass that along to their supervisors. And so I wanted to pass it along to the board because they are very visible out there, and every single day they're making us all proud and representing the district very well. So that was Robbie Byers' crew. Robbie's the foreman out there. And on that crew is Lucas Castle, Josh Capel, Zach Fredrickson, and Robbie on that day. So thank you to all of them, and just wanted to let you all know they continue to do a great job. And that's all my report.
Thank you, Abby. That's great. Okay, if there's no further staff reports, we will move on to directors' communications and reports. Is anybody like to go first? I see Director Ringen unmuted yourself. That might be a sign?
Well, I was going to hold back and let everybody else go first, but all right, you asked for it. 2:15, attended and participated in the T-Stand Irwin Outreach Subcommittee meeting, and what we discussed was numerous things, but the major thing was making some changes on the T-Stand website that will allow customers input about their wells, condition of their wells, and then this would allow the Irwin group to search out grants and remediation for those wells that are failing or get them hooked up to water systems. But it's in the beginning stages, and it needs to be put together and then brought before the Water Advisory Committee of the T-Stand and get their blessing, and then we move forward from there. And looking for some grant money, hopefully, to help us do it. 2:16. Had a busy day. Had the actual T-Stand Irwin Water Advisory Committee and the JPA meetings, and it was really good. There was 2 closeout presentations, closeout of projects. One was the Twain Harte CSD Wells project, and that was put on by Tom Trott, their GM. It was well done. And then the Tuolumne County RCD, their project, the Drought Awareness and Mitigation Project, and all the efforts that they did in both Tuolumne County and southern part of Calaveras, which are part of the T-Stand. And then we also had 2 presentations for new projects, and those were done by our own TUD representatives, and both did a really great job, and they were voted on by the JPA to be included in the plan. So now that the game will be to get out and start trying to find some money and get them done. On 2:18, Mountain Counties Water Resource Association Governance Committee, which I'm part of. I attended and participated in that, and we're starting the efforts to help find eligible candidates for 2 board directors of mountain counties, which are vacancies. And we kind of are lucky because Director Balin is the secretary, and so looking forward, the governance committee is looking forward to working with her and Ray Ann from RN2. And we want to get some good folks so that the board has a real hard time choosing, because Mountain Counties is going to do some really great things down the road. Has done great things already. On 2/17, I skipped over it. Sorry about that. Met with GM Perkins for a tour of Gibbs Ranch in-ground pump station on Redbud Drive. It was a installation of a water vault in ground. Only 18,500 pounds each half. The crew was careful to keep their feet out from underneath it. And there was a huge crane there in order to get it in the ground. It was pretty interesting. It's a long overdue project that's going to solve some real problems, pains that TUD has been given by some tanks and so on. So that was very interesting. And let's see. Oh, and then we also went to the Millville lift station and had a discussion of what I was thinking could be done there in order to keep from purchasing the property next to our postage stamp piece and to make it work. And then we also went down to the Valley Vista area to view where a possible where the lift station could possibly be located. So anyway, that's it for me.
Thank you, Ron. Any other directors' reports?
I'll go ahead and jump in there, President Balin. February 2nd, I had my monthly phone call with GM Perkins. We discussed all kinds of different things. And then also, you and I had our water committee meeting on the 16th, and it was a very good discussion about the Curtis Creek project, much like the discussion today. So that's all I have to report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, I too attended February 16th, the water committee, and that was really a great discussion, and it was a good exchange. And again, I appreciate staff being so prepared to answer all of our questions, because we were, really needed to know some of the history and how all that area was plumbed, and the tanks and the SBI tank and et cetera. So I thought that was very valuable. Then the following day, I authored, I guess you might say, or wrote the grand jury response for the continuity report. I believe that's what it's called, Jesse. And I got word from the judicial office that these comments then will be published, I believe, or made part of the record. So I think that was indicating that it was safe to basically say that's what's going on, because it was sent to the Union Democrat and the and Clark Broadcasting. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is the AQUA, Association of California Water Agencies conference will be held in Sacramento, no longer virtual. And I'm sure that Melissa sent everybody a RSVP. If you guys might know, AQUA rotates. They're twice a year, big conferences, a lot of networking, and a huge exhibitors hall. And they rotate between Southern California, Mid-California and Northern California. And this year, we're very fortunate to have it in Sacramento. You could almost commute at least one day. And so I would really, this is an opportunity if you didn't want to go far away to experience aqua. It's an opportunity for not only the directors, but our staff can come away with a lot of information. And I would just really encourage a lot of us to go. We haven't gone, many of us haven't gone for a long time, so I'm sure that money is still squirreled away. So I would just encourage everybody to go. If you don't see anything on the aqua agenda, that doesn't mean anything. It just means that they're just kind of plugging in finance and environment and climate and things like that. But believe me, that they get robust speakers, and their plenaries are really great. And then they have a legal column also, so worth attending. And on that note, I have no further comments, but I see Director Ringen's hand is up.
Yes, I just want to state real quick, I had no idea that we had gotten something from the grand jury. And I don't remember where I stumbled across it and read it, but I read your entire response, and I want to give you a pat on the back. It was let's see, how can I put this? Slightly different tone from what we got from Pattison and gang back a couple of years ago. You did a great job, and I think that the grand jury will probably really appreciate that tone and the way you handled that. So at any rate, good job.
Well, and I think it was in the paper, Ron. So essentially, and Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong, but a continuity report just rolls over the already published findings of the 2021 grand jury.
2020.
2020. Okay.
That was the last report.
Yeah.
So the purpose of the excuse me, the continuity report is to just follow up on the previous grand jury's report, see if everybody had an opportunity to respond, whether they exercised that opportunity to respond, and whether any of the responses required additional attention or anything like that. In TUD's situation, the TUD did respond to all of the grand jury's recommendations. And so there was nothing left to be addressed. No new issues needed to be addressed, but President Balin wanted to send in a response nevertheless, outlining the TUD's value or encouragement of the grand jury and its upcoming report. The new report won't be out for several months, probably in June or July of this year.
Thank you. Okay, well, wrapping up, is there any other comments before we adjourn? Yes, Director Murphy.
Just a quick director's report. I met up with or invited GM Perkins to come out to Columbia College and do a walk around of the fuel reduction projects that have been going on there to protect the infrastructure of the college over the last, well, they've been going on for the existence of the college, but big work has been done in the last 2 to 3 years. And so I just wanted to kind of show the different areas to our GM and as just for his education and edification. And on the flip side of that, Don Perkins was able to tell me a bit about some of the historic ways that things have been, water systems have been on the campus, and then his concerns as well for the current water system there. And we were able to, I had mentioned at a meeting probably a year ago about the purple fire hydrant and also the fire raw water fire pump out of the reservoir there. So I was able to show those to the GM so that he's aware of where those are. And I think he was going to pass that information on to to you, Eric Johnson. And so that you guys would have knowledge of that. And to our understanding, Tom Hofstra said he believes that those are both in working condition. But the person to double check with that on would be with the fire management, because they're the ones who use it for the campus. All right, I think that's it. Thank you so much. And Don, thanks for joining me out on the tour of Columbia College.
You're welcome. And when she says we walked around, she tried to make me run around there. It was a healthy exercise I got. It was fun. Thanks.
There's some terrain.
Yeah.
But also a lot of, we went and watched a ground burn that was going on at that time with students running it. And that was pretty fun. And the students, I talked with a few of the students.
Okay, thank you for that report. All right, seeing no other hands up, then I will adjourn today's meeting of February 22nd. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Good afternoon.
Bye-bye.
See you all later.
Hi, everyone.